Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. Joining me today, again, is Skip Miller, Able Shepherd number 004. What's up, brother?
How's it going?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah,
Thank
beautiful
you.
day.
And for the first time, Don Jones, Able Shepherd 005, correct?
005.
Welcome, brother. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a beautiful day.
It's pretty
out
cool.
here. Wind's blowing, not too much, like we were kind of guessing.
Yeah.
It's a good day. Today we want to do an update on something I mentioned last time. It was kind of in passing. In my mind, it was going to be kind of a preliminary, admittedly premature announcing of the Stand in the Gap initiative.
Yeah.
We did get some feedback, kind of like, oh, what's that? I don't understand. That's why it was premature. I don't want to launch something, fully launch it prematurely, but I do think that we want to clear some things up today and just kind of give an update of where it's going. A little bit of history on that, and both of these guys are a part of what's going on in this conversation that is refining this. And every time we talk about it, it gets a little bit more refined. We want to make sure that the pieces that we deliver once we announce them are solid, that they're very clear and they give people action items.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to just kind of touch, and I want you guys' feedback on this. The launch date that I'm setting, and I'm kind of tasking the team, is August 10th. So August 10th will be the ability to launch it and promote it, and we're literally calling out everybody in the program. I've already, because of the last podcast, got people volunteering, and that's exactly what we need. People are saying, hey, if you don't mind, I don't want to overstep. No, that's exactly what we need. We just haven't asked you yet. So please kind of get ready. I know it's bugging people to say, I want to do something, I'm not sure what to do, and I want to launch responsibly. There's things going on all over the nation. Skip's keeping me, abreast of that kind of stuff that I would deem some of the stuff is irresponsible. Some of it is just incomplete. Some of it is spot on. It's just not in line with our calling. So this is going to be exactly in line with our calling, or we wouldn't be doing it. So we're calling it Stand in the Gap Initiative. A lot of the pieces are either in the works or have been completed, but we want to be able to launch a clear and concise message. The way that I can probably best describe it is we are continuing to move forward to improve individual as well as community preparedness, capability, and organization. And we can dive into those a little bit just to fill in some of those blanks for you guys. But like I said, bear with us. I know November's coming and we don't know what that means, but what we've kind of fleshed out in the meeting just before this is that's absolutely right. November is coming. We don't know what that means. Would you rather be trained and organized to provide a realistic capability to protect your loved ones, or untrained, unorganized? That's kind of the theme. So it would be irresponsible of us to with what we do, to not let people know, and that's going to segue right into what Donna's going to be introducing today. So anything come to mind right now to just fill in those gaps of questions you've got some that you've received since that last podcast?
Yeah, a little bit. So I think the overall kind of, we're seeing a lot of crazy stuff happen all over the country. And our motto in the Able Shepherd program is take care of one another. And this is just kind of an extension. It's intended to be just an extension of that, to really kind of like spread. It's been, and we've had this conversation many times where it's like, we've had a real world emergency in the world right now. And we're living it with COVID, with all of the crazy riots and all this kind of stuff, the protests, everything that's going on. We've been living this real world for the last 5 months. And you talk about your Rolodex, having the ability to have the backup. People have my back. 250 people in the Able Shepherd program today. It's a very large, comforting feeling to know that there's those people that are, that we have a community that will support each other. And we're just, I think I look at the Stand in the Gap initiative as a way to expand that and give that sense of comfort and that kind of sense of confidence that I'm not in this alone. I don't have to like deal with everything that the world is throwing at us right now by myself. And it's that community aspect of take care of one another. That's all really the Stand in the Gap initiative is. It's just getting that bigger.
Yeah, it takes and lowers the level of anxiety that you might be feeling on a daily basis that keeps you from sleeping at night or going to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Just because you've got people around you that you can rely on.
Yeah.
They can help you. They can support you. They can listen to you. And you got skills, you got capability, you got resources.
Yeah.
So you're not as worried as you would be.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing that the Stand on the Gap initiative is to try to get that sense of I'm not alone.
Yep.
I've got backup. I've got people that care about me, that have a realistic capability and the resources, like you mentioned, to help you through troubling times.
Yep.
And in the conversation earlier, we say it in the POP all the time. We used to be better at this.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
as a society, I mean, we Americans used to be better at this.
Yeah, like our society was better at. We lived in smaller groups. We that take care of one another was just really natural 100 years ago.
It was required.
It was
required for survival.
And we've kind of gotten away from that because of some of the comfort in our society that all of modern society gives us.
Yeah,
but
DoorDash wasn't around 100 years ago.
No,
you had to go kill something.
You wanted to eat, you better go catch it or grow it. And so, that to me, every time we have that conversation, we get a little bit clearer in terms of, like, in my mind, what are we talking about here? Take care of one another. That's what it is.
What I see on day to day, and so do you guys, is people come into our community because they trust it and they're asking, "What are you guys doing?" And I think that was my goal of announcing this again prematurely, of just letting people know, again, a little bit of comfort, saying this is being built.
Yeah,
we're not in so much of a hurry that we're going to throw it flippantly out there and not be organized.
Yeah.
But we're not creating pieces either. Most of these we already have.
Yep.
So just like we're going to say organization, we want to organize them before we present them. So this is coming, and take a deep breath. November is not going to be flipping the switch and then it's all on or not on.
Yeah.
This is going to be our world. I believe is changing in November, and from now on. So this is going to be a thing that when we see the kind of disorganization that I believe is gonna that we are going to see, just like COVID, I feel like we somehow grew stronger. Like our community grew stronger.
Absolutely.
So COVID, some people freaked out. Some people went to their houses and hid. Some people did all whatever. I think that we actually got stronger. I know we learned tons. It forced us out of our comfort zone to think about, hey, what are we going to do? What are we going to schedule? What are we going to structure? What are the other source of revenue? But we saw so many people saying, what can I do to help?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's like, hey, what's your plan for November? I plan to be alone. That's not the best plan.
That's not a great plan.
No matter what happens. If I'm, we said, you walked over just a minute ago while I'm collecting my notes and you said, hey, Jimmy, I feel like this is what we're supposed to be doing right now.
Yep.
Everything we've been doing is led up to right now. And I'm just blown away sometimes with emotion about that, that I just showed you guys a picture that Rachel and I kind of had made. It's kind of rudimentary or whatever back in 2012, said dutytoact.com. And it's me, Rachel, we both armed with sidearms that you can visibly see. My daughter's around my leg, and she's holding what is now middle daughter. I had two kids back then. That was 2 kids ago. And we're looking off, and a storm is coming. And that's what the thing was burning inside my chest then, was there's a storm coming, and I need to get people ready. And I didn't know how to do it. You fast forward 9 years, I know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talk about this in if people are trying to develop how to respond to an active shooter. At this point, it's like you're already way behind, right?
Yeah.
And that same concept applies now. We've been doing this for 9 years.
Yeah.
Just take care of one another. You started a company 9 years ago that absolutely is more pertinent today than it ever has been in my lifetime.
Agreed.
And so, like, if you're trying to kind of make up something about how to, like, help people, and you're starting from zero right now, you're behind.
Yeah, we said this conversation started a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And we've learned a lot. We've learned about, and when people flippantly gather, I don't care who, we just all need together. We've had those people that weren't in it for the right reasons that we've had to excuse.
Yep.
We've had people come in and be gung-ho and be hard conversation saying, you don't represent us well. We've had all that stuff, the highs and the lows, but we've gotten stronger. And every time we've learned, and we've always said this, when you do something for a living, you learn more. It's just different. I said something in a letter that I wrote today, is we live in an industry that a lot of people like to visit. They like to visit. They don't really live there, so they got some pieces of it. And you're like, oh, man, when you go down further on this road, that's not safe. So what's coming? I just wanted to prep everybody to just take a breath, get ready, because you will be called on to spread this word. In essence, we're launching 5 2-hour sessions to be announced in the coming weeks. So there's going to be 2-hour sessions all through South Denver There's going to be, like I said, 5 of them. They're going to be spread out. And again, nobody knows what's coming in November. But we know that we need to be trained, we need to be organized, and we need to think about all this stuff. We say create those neural pathways before you're in that situation, because by the time the situation comes, there's no time to hold a class.
There's no class then.
A class. So we're going to be organizing people and giving them tools to protect themselves and their communities in the coming weeks. So please just bear with us on that. I know that the clock is counting down and November's coming and all that stuff, but we are developing this and refining it. And every time we talk, it gets better. Today was another example of that. We spent way too long. BK's waiting on us, and he's like, "Hey man, we filming today?" And so we really made some headway today in moving that along. So along with that vein, I want to introduce Don Jones, and we're talking about the Able Shepherd Preparedness Study Group is what he's calling it.
Yep.
A little background on that is that Don has been doing this for some time now. So as far as preparedness and thinking along those lines, how long?
Probably about 15 years. Lori and I moved out here in 2001, literally 2 weeks before 9/11. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad we did. We moved out to a well, and I remember there were rumors flying around that there were going to be terrorists poisoning the water supply for Denver and stuff like that. It was a weird time, and again, we'd never experienced anything like that before. But one of the first instances of when we started thinking about that is we got a spring snowstorm about 3 or 4 feet, and we got stuck at home, snowed in about 3 or 4 days. And I've got a big 4-wheel drive, big diesel pickup, and it was fun being stuck at home for a couple of days.
You have a couple of those.
Cool Trucks Jones.
Cool Trucks Jones.
A couple of them, yeah.
Trying to give him a call sign. Call sign. Cool Trucks Jones.
Yep. So after about 3 days, I'm getting cabin fever, so we get out the shovels and we dig ourselves out, and we run into Parker just for something to do, and there was nothing in the grocery stores. And I'd never seen that. I thought, wow, what if I was hungry? What if I didn't have food at home? There's no place to go to buy food right now. And I'd read that, the supply chains are getting tighter and just in time and all that stuff. I live in the manufacturing world, and it's all about lean production and everything. But that's the first time I really saw the weakness of it. And that's our whole society now. Our whole society has a really, really tight and lean supply chain for everything. Food, medicine, truck tires, window shades. I mean, everything is made to order. And the system is so efficient that you can order something, have it next week. You can order something, have it next day via drone from Amazon now. So that was the first thing that really kind of woke up me and my wife, Lori. And then I read 1 second after. And then I read about 20 other books that's all kind of the same story. And they're all fictional, but they're all plausible to a certain extent. There's a solar flare. It was a year or two ago, we missed the planet Earth missed a solar flare that would have hit the Western Hemisphere by 18 hours or something like that.
Close.
Yeah, that would have basically done to the whole electrical grid in North America what happened back in the 60s, I believe it was, in New York, where I believe a transformer blew, and it created this cascading effect that shut down the electrical grid in the Northeast United States. And so everybody was without power for a day or two. I don't remember all the details about that. So that's kind of what got Lori and I thinking about it. And Lori's been a real trooper, and I get these crazy ideas, and she says, "Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Let's go do that." So
good woman.
And then she goes and does all the work,
Yeah.
So
really good woman.
Got to give her credit. So about 15 years ago, we started digging around looking for resources, and one of the first places we went was to some Mormon friends, because the Mormon Church has a philosophy of being prepared. I think they call it provident living. A year's worth of food, a year's worth of money, and a group of people and all that kind of stuff, and learned a bunch from them and got a bunch of resources and just kind of continued to grow it.
Don will probably say 25 times in his videos, I'm not an expert. I would consider you an expert because of what you've looked into and what you've personally done in your life, because I know a little bit about that. So he had started a group and started working and helping people to form up and be prepared. In Virginia, it's hurricanes. When hurricanes come, everybody rips the stores apart. I hear it's the weather. It can be specific to where it could be earthquake, it could be whatever. It means that if that very fragile system breaks down, and your Amazon packages and your water and all that stuff don't show up where they're supposed to show up, now it's flail state and start stabbing, your neighbor and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I think that this is, I've never seen anything like this in my life as far as what's happening this year. And at the end of the year, so Don has agreed. He came to me, and this is just another one of the blessings of this program, this community, when people come up and say, hey, feel called to do this for more people. I wanted to run this by you. I've got calls this week, 2 or 3 at least, calls and texts saying I feel called to do more. Where do you need a space and all this stuff? It's just amazing because we're just so blessed. And this is just, it's not when people say, you know what you need to do? Skip with all your spare time. What you need to do is this. We got all those guys too.
That's what I do to Lori.
It's different.
You know what you need to do, Lori?
So we all do with our wives. It's like, hey, honey, it'd be cool. Yeah. Ready to go.
She nods and walks away.
But when you walk over and say, hey, I've got an amazing idea that can contribute and help people, and I'm going to run it. And then I'm like, now we're talking, because now we expand and we end up helping more people and not overloading, 1 or 2 guys and burn them up. So if you don't mind, could you, sir, please walk through your curriculum? I think it's going to have huge interest right now. I think you tell me, but I believe you said that you're going to release this once we get the system up. As far as our communication with intelligence, and that's what I wanted to say too, is we're providing our plan with this initiative. We're going to provide information. Real-time, applicable information. Skip is that's his thing. He's drawn to that, to put me in a space I'm not comfortable with. That's as inefficient. He does this anyways. When I tell you something, you already know about it. When you tell me something, I had no idea. So that's the guy, right? Training that is specifically tailored to the protection of your loved ones. This is born from my background, special operations, SEAL team background. CIA, all this stuff, it means protecting people. We know enough. We know about that, and we deliver it very well and efficiently. And then we're going to provide organization. That's the word that keeps coming up, is how is the other side so organized and we can't get our stuff together? Well, that takes procedures. It takes steps to start getting organized so you actually align, responsibly develop and align your resources. That's what we're talking about. So as we go through this stuff, these are going to be amazing resources. I think Skip said the other day, you can still buy rice. It's not like, it's too late. You need to be doing stuff right now, and Don's going to walk us through that. So could you please?
So the vision that I have in my head is we're 14 weeks away from Election Day. And in my world, when I'm out knocking on doors, talking to guys that own manufacturing companies, it is quite common now for the conversation to take a swerve and say, what's going to happen? I got this feeling we're going the wrong direction. Something's not quite right. And it's amazing to me how broad that feeling is across the community, and not just the preparedness community and the self-defense community, but everybody. Everybody's thinking about that. It doesn't feel right. So, Lori and I have been working on this a long time. Lori and I have been involved in a couple of different groups. We're currently in a group as well. In our experience, those groups will go for a year or so, and then the catalyst, the fire behind that group moves away or something like that, so they've fallen apart. But they've all kind of consisted of the same things. And knowledge is your biggest resource. If you've got the knowledge, then you know what skills to develop, you know what resources to go looking for, you know what other skills need to be identified in people in your group and things like that. So that's what I'm hoping to do over the next 13 weeks. So I've got a 13-week agenda. BK and Brad are going to help me set up some resources online. We're going to have a Zoom meeting every Sunday night, starting this Sunday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. It's going to be exactly an hour. We're going to pull the plug at an hour, so we're not staying up till midnight because that's easy to do when you start rolling. And every week is going to be the same. The vision is the same schedule. We're going to have about 10 or 15 minutes to talk about what happened the previous week. We're going to have 15 to 30 minutes to go over a particular topic, and then we're going to have, up to a half an hour to just questions and answers. I don't get this. I don't understand that. Or in our community, we've got a huge amount of resources. We've got a lot of smart, capable people, and I'm sure there's people out there that are way ahead of me on at least some of these topics, maybe all of these topics. We may find out we've got a guru in the group somewhere. They just didn't stand up. I was dumb enough to stand up.
So talk to me a little bit about give me 2 or 3 of the 13 topics. Just what are we talking about? We're talking about, please.
Yeah. So the very first meeting, I think, is really going to be the most important one because it focuses on your circle, it focuses on your team, your tribe, your clan. Every organization I've ever belonged to, it's the people that are the hardest and the most valuable asset of the group. If you got the right people and they're all rowing the same direction, you can achieve amazing things, just like you've done. You've done it at Able Shepherd. You did it in the SEALs. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of the SEALs is they're all trained and they're all running the same direction and they all know what's going on. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time on this first Sunday talking about how to identify your team of people. And the immediate audience for this is the 200 plus members in the Able Shepherd program, whether they're in phase 1 or phase 4. Or potentially we got a black patch guy as of Saturday. So,
tonight.
I guess tonight is when it'll happen.
Yeah.
So, a broad spectrum of capabilities and skills. So kind of my vision on what this is going to turn into is, let's say we've got 200 people to work from. You may have a circle, if you will, of 2 or 3 Able Shepherds, and you may have 2 or 3 people from your church, and you may have 2 or 3 people from your cul-de-sac or your neighborhood, and you may have 2 or 3 people that you met through the PTO or your kid's school or something. That's potentially 10 or 15 people.
Yeah.
And if, let's say there's 2 Able Shepherds in that group, that means we got 100 teams that have 2 Able Shepherds in them, 100 teams with 15 people in it. That's 1,500 people scattered around central Denver south to Monument that are going to be better prepared in 14 weeks than they are now. So we're going to talk about, here's 5 or 10 types of people you need. You need somebody that is technically inclined, that's going to help you set up an emergency communications plan so that if we have a great big fire, Skip and I live out here. Another thing that really helped Lori and I move forward in our preparedness is about 6 years ago, the Black Forest caught fire, and we literally had ashes landing at our house up here. And so we got an evacuation notice. I'm out in town driving around. I get a call from Lori and say, hey, we got an hour to get evacuated. So she's throwing stuff in the pickup in the camper. We just kind of made this up on the fly. And, the baby pictures, the marriage certificate, the important stuff like that, yeah, we could leave them in the gun safe, but I don't really want to. There's some of this stuff I want to take. So we had that exercise, and Lori was smart enough to say, hey, when we unpack this stuff, let's make a list. So next time, we're not just running around looking in this room and saying, what do we grab? So identify, I think I got off on a tangent here, but we want to identify a technical person that can help set up some communications and things like that. You may want to identify a couple of more tactically skilled, defense-skilled people, which will probably be your Able Shepherd guys. You may want to identify a really good cook or a really good baker or somebody that can to help, prepare food stores and things like that. You may want somebody that can sew or what?
Weld.
And that's,
your auto guy. You're like,
back to that team mentality. And that was one of the beauties of the SEAL teams is like that everybody needed everybody else. Like there was the breacher guy that went off to breacher school, learned how to breach a door and all that kind of stuff once his attorney was up. But it's very inefficient to make everybody do that. It just takes so much longer. There's no way you're going to deploy in a year and a half. So you got snipers, you got breachers, you got even the patrol guys, the comm guys, the leadership, all of that stuff, and then it works. So you need everybody. So
it's the team.
One guy's not doing it all, and then he's sick that day, and now you can't get anything done.
So another topic would be water.
Okay.
And nobody pays attention to water. You go to the faucet and you turn it on, or you go to 7-Eleven and you buy a case of water. But water is probably one of the very first things that if you run out of it, you're in big, big trouble.
Sure.
I think in your survivability code, you guys probably know the right term, but it's 30 seconds without oxygen, 30 hours without water, 3 days without food, something like that. Well, water gets contaminated even when everything's working right. Most people listening to this will probably remember it was a year or two ago, Flint, Michigan, the water treatment system got contaminated.
Yeah.
And that's a whole big city that had to start hauling in water. So FEMA and the Army and all those people start stepping up and they bring in water buffaloes, and you got long lines of people with gallon jugs and all this other stuff. Well, if you're prepared, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be in that line. You really don't have to be in that line at midnight or something, because you've got water at home, because you've bought a bladder that goes in your bathtub that you can fill up if you know the water system's going down, like for a fire or a storm or something like that. Or you have a great big tank. We've got one in our garage that holds 250 gallons. So you fill it up. You put a little bit of chemicals in there so stuff doesn't grow in it. It's chemicals that don't kill you. They make you really handsome.
Yeah. It worked really well for you.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But that's, theoretically, I think it's 10 gallons of water a day, 5 to 10 gallons of water a day is what an individual needs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you learn you don't flush the toilet every time you use the toilet. You wait until it's really got to get cleaned out, and then you take a gallon of water and you run it down the toilet and it's clean.
Yep.
Water filters and stuff like that. So if you have a rain barrel or it's in your bug out bag, your get home bag, you got a water straw or something like that. So you can go to the grossest looking ditch and you can fill up your Nalgene bottle. Yeah. So just another topic that a lot of people have never thought about because they didn't watch a movie or they didn't read a book or their buddy at church didn't tell them about it. So you just take it for granted. We just take so much for granted in this world. And 50 years ago out here in Colorado, 100 years ago, it was still the Wild West. So my grandma, she came out here on a wagon. She knew all that. She thought about it.
Yeah.
We don't think about that anymore.
Can you walk us through the titles so people they know what to look for of each one?
Yeah. So a real quick rundown. First off is the introduction, and then it's really about building your tribe, building your team. Second one is basic food preparation, and we'll go over this in a lot more detail, but you look at what your family likes to eat, and you write that list down, and if you can make a list of 10 or 20 meals, and you can go to the grocery store and figure out how to buy all the supplies for that meal that you can put in your cupboard and in your deep freeze. If you buy 3 sets of breakfast, lunch, and dinner of 20 meals, you got 3 months of food. And it's food that your kids like, your husband likes, your wife likes, that you know how to cook. And you're set. And again, that's a great big factor in lowering your anxiety level. You can go to your cupboard and the cupboard's not bare.
Yep.
Next one is an emergency communications plan. And I read a book about this, and it's a bunch of stuff that I'd never thought about. A big earthquake in San Francisco, the cell system's going to go down, but they'll be able to text maybe, because texts don't use near as much data. We've even had something like that happen here where some sort of emergency happens, you can't get in and make a phone call. It used to happen in rush hour a couple of years ago because the cell phone install base had outgrown the tower system. But you can send a text because the text will go through. But the pieces that are less obvious is a communication schedule. So,
Okay, you got that SATCOM deal?
well, yes, I do.
Oh, well, yes, I do. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
A communication schedule. So let's say you live in a hurricane area, which we don't. There's going to be all kinds of disruptions in the communication system, but you've identified somebody 3 states away where that hurricane isn't going to hit. And you have a written emergency communications plan, and that says at 7 minutes past the hour, every half hour, so at 1:07 and at 1:37 and at 2:07, you try to get a hold of Aunt Jenny in Nevada.
Put somebody's eye out. That's right. That's good.
Because Aunt Jenny's phone system works, and everybody knows, try to get a hold of Aunt Jenny, so you can find a landline or something like that. So it's the schedule, it's the identifying the person, just pieces like that. You want to talk about this? Or
Sorry,
you want to keep going?
I just wanted to throw that out there because this is something that we're building right now for this ride. You're going to be a rider.
Yep.
We're going to be rescue team, what's called support team, so hopefully it's not rescue team. Support
I like
team.
how you slipped that
Yeah, I
in.
know, right? Both of, 2 father and son, groups in pickups rolling through if you guys need something. Well, you guys are going to be down in valleys and all that stuff. The reason we went with these Garmin's is because it's an InReach Explorer Plus. We just activated these. Actually, you just activated these last night. He was calling me on the phone. We're doing all that stuff. Paid for the subscription, but now we can send a text to you guys, because the 86er is going to have one of these on his bike.
Yep.
So every 2 hours we're going to want an update. We'll refine what that looks like, but there's presets in here. Hey, we're good to go. See at the next stop, we're good to go, we're good to go.
Yep.
We hear nothing, we're going to start getting worried. If you send something like, hey, we've got an emergency, we need you, and we'll follow, then it's going to be a manual text in, and then we'll get it and be on our way.
Yep.
So that's something that we got these specifically for the rest of this year. We might be using these again, but that really went into my decision on what we were going to use for comms for the ride.
And those are satellite phones?
They're satellite, so they're satellite texting. So they're off a satellite, not like your cell phones. This is off like the SATCOM kind of networks that if phones are down and you wouldn't get cell service and text won't go through, these will go through.
And it's a GPS.
And it's a GPS.
And I believe you can share the maps from one to the other. So
That's right.
if I send you a text, you know where I'm at on your map.
That's right.
So if I say help me, it's
You can
like,
say
okay,
exactly
let me
where it
know
is.
where.
Right.
I don't have to tell you where. You know where.
And where is that? And how much is that?
400 and change, almost $450
Each?
Comes each one of them. It's preloaded with the data, the map data, the topo maps, and all that kind of stuff. Last night BK downloaded our routes that we're going to take, so we can just follow the line and walk us in on that. And then we came up to about a $25 annual fee. Everybody pays that. We went for like a $35 per month to get us a couple more texts. It starts at about 20-ish bucks. Then it goes to, help me out, BK, 35. Then it jumps up to 45. So you pick your plan, but then after this ride, we can kick it down to just the safety plan. So it was a safety, Explorer, something like that, recreation, then Explorer, something like that. So we picked the middle of the road one to use these, and then we can keep them activated all year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. Next one is an equipment list. So just resources you want in your house or maybe in your car, but let's just say your house right now, some clothing, some work clothing, and a pair of boots or an extra pair of boots that are broken in case you gotta walk 5 miles. You want comfortable shoes. Camping gear. So if power goes out, gas goes out, you got no lights, you want some candles, you want maybe your old Coleman cook stove, you want your jet boil, something like that. You're gonna cook up some ramen noodles just like back in college. Tools.
Natural light.
Yeah. Tools, hand tools for repairing your house or repairing your car or something like that. Just some basic tools. And it may be, once you get your team, you get your circle, maybe you've got a mechanic in your circle, but he's a mechanic that works on Toyotas, so he's got all metric tools. So maybe you need an English set of hand wrenches because you drive an old Ford. Or maybe you just need tools for the house because nobody has plumber's tools, but Joe so-and-so used to be a plumber, or you can kind of figure it out. So just some tools to be able to get some jobs done. We talked about water. Cooking from scratch.
Something I love to do.
Yeah. So
I just told BK, I was like, I had to adjust my belt. I got fatter from our lunch. We just had lunch. I was like, I ate too much, and then she brought out dessert.
And then it was dessert.
yeah,
If Skip or Neil are cooking, you don't want to miss that.
No.
I was complaining because you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your relatives. In one case, I can't pick who's in my clan because I got Skip in my clan. He just moved out here next to me, so by default he's on my team. But he's a great cook. But not that many people know how to make bread from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
It's flour and baking soda and eggs and water and whatever that magic stuff is that Lori does to make really good bread. Other resources is the seventh week. And that's internet resources and hard copy resources. And there is a ton of internet resources out there. But those are digital resources, so you have to handle those in a special way. So you need like a hardened computer. You need a Faraday cage. You need USB sticks. You need the ability to recharge your batteries and stuff with solar. Hard copy stuff can be magazines. It could be your Boy Scout handbook. It could be the Firefox series, things like that. And then it's get home bags and bug out bags. That's week number 8. And a get home bag can consist of a lot of different things, but that's the idea of that is if you're at work and something happens, we get baseball size hail over the entire metro area and you got to walk home because there's dead cars on every single road that just got beat to smithereens, which happened in northern Arvada about
3 years ago.
Well,
Two
I'm
years ago?
remembering one that was probably over 20 years ago, and it literally was baseball, softball size hail. I had a friend that was sitting in a parking lot that crawled into the passenger seat floorboard up underneath the dash because it beat all the windows out of their car.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had somebody do that. She might have been done it 3 years ago, but it was up in that area, and
It's just huge.
she came to the gym and her whole windshield was gone. I'm like, what the heck happened to you?
Yeah.
She's like, I was in the back seat underneath everything I could find. And yeah, it happens out here.
Yeah. And then a bug out bag, that's like a 72-hour kit. That's stuff in your house that if you have to leave your house, like when Lori and I had to evacuate because of the fire, the really essential stuff that you need to get out of there to make it for a day or 3 days until the fire goes by, and you're sick and tired of living in a hotel or mooching off a skip or somebody else that didn't get burned down. The next topic is medical first aid, stuff like that. So some of that's skills. How do I apply a tourniquet? How do I apply a splint? But a lot of it is just over-the-counter meds. Like when this whole COVID thing started to cook off, I went out and bought a good supply of Mucinex and Sudafed, antihistamine, stuff like that, because it was presenting itself as a respiratory system, and people are literally suffocating to death. But over-the-counter stuff, prescriptions, first aid, hygiene gets overlooked a lot. After a few days of not brushing your teeth, it's not good. Nothing tastes right. Just some things like that. And then fitness. Fitness gets overlooked by a lot of people like me. You got to get out and walk, because you may end up having to walk. And if you got everything else, but you don't have the ability to walk 5 miles, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
You've wasted your time and money gathering up all that stuff because somebody else is really going to enjoy having it, but you're not going to have it. Money, financial barter, things like that. One of the things that I was really interested in watching when this whole COVID thing kicked off was the internet, because I didn't think the internet was built for having everybody at home streaming Netflix. And if the internet crashed, our banking system crashes. Your ATM machine's not going to work. You're not going to be able to go to King Soopers, get out of your house wearing a mask or whatever. You go to King Soopers and you got to pay with a credit card. It ain't going to work. And King Soopers isn't going to take an IOU. So you got to have a little bit of cash on hand. Next is transport. That's your cars, trucks, motorcycle, maybe a bicycle. Part of my plan, I travel out of state pretty frequently, or used to, until this whole COVID thing happened. If something happens and I'm up in northern Wyoming, one of my first things I'm going to do is I'm going to beg, borrow, or steal a bicycle. I can cover 100 miles a day on a bicycle. I can cover 20 a day if I'm on foot. That means I get home 5 times faster, and I'm a lot safer at home than out on the road. Home heat and staying warm. So how am I going to get heat in my house? We're fortunate we have a fireplace. But if you're in a home that's been built in the last 5 years in town, you don't have a fireplace. You have something that looks like a fireplace. But if you don't have electricity and gas, you're just going to sit there and look at it. So you got to figure out a different way to keep warm, whether that's a propane stove or, you replace that with a pellet stove or something else. And then shelter-in-place activities, which I think a lot of people probably solved that over the last few months, especially if you had a family. You're locked in there with a bunch of kids, and they still have all the energy they used to burn off all day long at school with all their buddies. They're running around bouncing off the walls. So you need cards and you need Monopoly, because you can play Monopoly for days on end till somebody eventually goes broke and somebody else has all the money. So, books and music and, activities and stuff like that. And then week 14, which is November 1, which is 3 days before the election, that's just kind of an open session.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
That's just time to ask questions and say, hey, I found this, or, whatever. Let's just kind of...
You mentioned the kids. It amazed me. So we just did our 5-gallon challenge every year. We missed it, I think, last year. We do this thing called a 5-gallon challenge. It's by no means a big challenge for the ultralight guys and all that, but what it is a 5-gallon bucket. We got these Lowe's buckets with the lid on. You can only take the stuff that fits in there. That's the scale. We all go to the trailhead. We dump it out. Even the bag you carry it in has to fit in there. The kids love pulling out, and this is what I brought, and this is the thing, and whatever. So they just love doing it. And then we went out there, and my kids didn't want to bring a tent. I gave them painter's plastic. sheets of painter's plastic, and then I helped them build shelters. When we got out there, it was raining, and it didn't stop raining all night.
Yep.
Loved it. Like, I was kind of worried they're going to go home and, Mom, this was horrible. She goes, what happened? Oh, it was so wet and it was cold and blah, blah, blah. You want to go again? Absolutely. That's so cool. Next time we're going to bring this.
Yep.
They loved it. So they loved messing around trying to make fires. They love doing all that kind of stuff. So something like this could be something to get the whole family, like we've talked about. In an emergency, everybody has a role. And it was funny because my daughter's getting aggravated because people aren't working. You know, like, hey, I want this and whatever. But she jumped right in with both feet, and they're 12, 10, and 6.
Yep.
And they were working. And it was cold and it wasn't fun, but something spoke to them.
But it was fun.
It was fun. At the end of it, they were like, that was an amazing experience.
It was hard, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's human nature.
Yeah.
I think most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, you get a lot of satisfaction out of overcoming.
Yeah.
And that's why we're still here. And the human race didn't die out, 5,000 years ago or something, because we're animals that like to achieve and overcome, and we're resilient. I remember when I was a little kid, we go elk hunting every year. And one year we packed in on horses, my mom, dad, and my sister. So there are 4 of us. And we didn't have a tent. We just had a great big tarp. So we pack in on the horses, and my dad and I go off hunting for the day. And my mom and my sister made a big area of pine boughs. And then we took a tarp and we laid the tarp down over it. And we put the sleeping bags and we threw the tarp back over the top. And that was our tent. Mm-hmm. Went to bed. It was awesome. Wake up the next morning, I throw the tarp back, and like a foot of snow falls on my face. So I crawl in the bottom of the bag and say, Dad, when's breakfast?
Looks like there's some snow, Dad. When's
I'll come
breakfast?
out when I smell bacon and coffee.
Yeah. And then I turned into the dad, and that's my job.
That's right. That's one of the best parts of it. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Skip, you got any closing thoughts, either on what's coming or obviously on what Don's bringing to us?
I think I'll address something that I think is very, very important, because it's very easy to hear this, and if this has not been part of kind of like your background or you've thought about this in the past, this can seem really overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff. It's like, oh my, I'm just not ready. I don't understand that. This is a new thing, right? And there's a lot of things that make up being prepared for whatever life gives you.
Yeah.
But you can't look at it like that.
No.
You got to look at it like I'm gonna make a difference every single day, and that, I think, is you've got to approach it like that. A lot of people are anxious about what's going on. They're really worried about it. You can make incremental changes, incremental steps forward to become more prepared for what life gives you every single day, and that's the key that I think everyone has to take away from this.
Yeah.
Is we're going to give you some resources. Do a little bit every day, and the thing about, like, there's the being prepared is everything from having everything that Don just talked about in your barn and your house and your solar and you're off the grid and all that stuff, and you're ready for anything. Yep. And then there's a guy that's got a book of matches and a sleeping bag, and it's a spectrum. And you get to the left, to the guy that's got everything, a little bit more every day, and that means you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the point. We just want to slide everybody that's interested in listening, we just want to slide them a little bit further up that spectrum.
Yep.
Because the more prepared you are, the more comfortable you are. I know one of the things I've done is I can store up to 2,000 gallons of diesel fuel in my place. And I've got a diesel car and 3 diesel pickups.
Yeah.
Cool trucks.
It was an amazing feeling to me. I mean, it really was a hit you upside the head, wake you up kind of feeling. The first time I drove my truck down by my barn and I filled up my truck out of a 500-gallon fuel tank, I wasn't waiting on the machine. I didn't have to go anywhere. It's all here. I knew I could do that 100 more times or 20 more times. I mean, I could drive for 2 months and never have to go to the gas station. That was such a feeling of comfort to know that I didn't have to worry about fuel.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, and just get there, get as close as you can to that. Just move forward every day so that you're closer to that sense of comfort.
Yeah, like you said, if you got nothing. So like this is one of the wake up calls for us, is that so many people right now are walking in the door like, hey, I've been thinking about buying a gun. I'm here for a Glock. And it's like, you missed that boat.
No, you're not.
So like that whole thing, don't be overwhelmed by it. Just be like, okay, what can I do right now? Because for most of our circle, and we say that those circles, you need to develop your circle, like Don was saying. Most of our circle, we've already thought about a lot of this. There's so many more circles that are coming to us, they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It just means take it a bite at a time, but it's time to get serious about that. I would implore you to catch every single one of these. I know I am. I've got some of this stuff and a lot of it's valuable information, so I'll be checking it out as well. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. Please give us a 5-star rating right now. Write a review for us. Follow us on Facebook at Able Shepherd. Check out the video versions of this on protectorculture.com. Learn more about the Able Shepherd program at ableshepherd.com. That's ABLESHEPHERD. Thank you so much, sir. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Skip. You're going to keep us notified on upcoming events. And until next time, God bless you guys. Take care of one another.